What is up guys, Deadset here. Today I want to talk about the feature of set dungeons, more specifically the 4 Crusader ones, their purpose, implementation and possible improvements. Hopefully the mastery banner on my character's back lends me some credence. Let's go over them. What I like about set dungeons is how they're brought into the world. Seamless inclusions in key places across the existing universe, a subtle hint from the tome to nudge you in the right direction. This gives off a nice feeling of mystery and exploration when finding these set dungeons, which definitely fits well with the spirit of Diablo. The thing I universally dislike about set dungeons I've visited so far, and I think it's pretty universal, is the tuning of monsters. Their damage shifts in the blink of an eye, from tickling to massive burst, at seemingly arbitrary points, which is more of an annoyance than a teaching tool, but more on that in a bit. On the other hand, monster health is so absurdly low that I've had to, in 2 out of 4 dungeons, unequip items to lower my damage so that I don't jeopardize objectives. The removal of items, relevant gems and paragon distribution really puts me off, as an essentially a punishment that you come in knowledgeable and prepared to the challenge. As more of a neutral point, I struggle to see the actual purpose of the set dungeon idea. I made a point to listen to the BlizzCon Diablo panel again, and the verbs used to describe them were celebrate and learn, which I interpret in 2 ways. For one, set dungeons are there to help you master the set, that you play better in the scaling difficulties of greater rifts. That's what I suspected initially as sort of an introduction, teaching you the ropes and presenting you with challenges unique to the playstyle, like resource management or reliance on certain cooldowns. If that's the goal of the set dungeons, however, several of the objectives need to be modified, because they do not match the usual applications of the set when attempting greater rift pushes. I'll give a few examples of that when I'm talking about the specific dungeons in a moment. Alternatively, the goal of set dungeons is to challenge you with a puzzle, with a problem whose solution is not immediately obvious and that you have to apply unconventional gameplay to overcome. If that's the case, well, why tie these challenges to specific sets at all? I'm sure a challenge of resource management or AoE precision can be dealt with in several ways instead of just with one set, and have its own leaderboard, have its own metagame, so on and so forth. Or is it something in between? I guess that's the right way to think about it, but I would like to see some tweaks in either the direction of mastery or the direction of puzzle to affirm the set dungeon's place in the game, and definitely request an improvement on the monster tuning issue. The AKKHAN set dungeon I was probably most annoyed with. Even the main objective is frustrating here, despite that it's probably intended to be the baseline of completion, kill all monsters without taking fatal damage. The problem were the Soul Lashers, aka the Lickers, whose damage is cranked up to 11 and no amount of defenses will stop them from 2-shotting me. The lesson being taught, I presume, is to always have AKKHAN's champion Prophet and or Indestructible up. But an unlucky clump of 4 to 5 Lickers will proc you twice with little chance to retaliate in the melee condemn spec, which is, by the way, demanded by the dungeon. It can get especially irritating while you're trying to line up more Legionnaires for the secondary objective, during a sort of a preparation dance that you would never really think of doing in an actual Greater Rift. Another major gripe I have with the AKKHAN dungeon is that Blade of Prophecy, which is for all intents and purposes a best-in-slot item for Condemn, is actually detrimental here, as the additional explosion triggers count separately from your skill and you end up hitting 3 sets of 5-ish monsters instead of counting 10 plus to your objective. The actual mastery trick of the seemingly insufficient but actually self-reviving Legionnaires is neat, so props for that. And thumbs up for a dungeon that doesn't punish me for my good damage. ROLAND'S was one of the dungeons where I was forced to reduce my damage in order to complete objectives. I dropped all offensive jewelry and thankfully didn't have an updated golden lens, so my damage was considerably lower. With normal jewelry and gems equipped, my utility skills, vacuum and drawing quarter, often killed the very monsters I tried to draw in for sweeping. The secondary objectives are well designed, but clash with each other more than I would like. The wrath spending one teaches you to inch forward while sweeping, which I definitely approve of since this is the gameplay of sweep attack. However, the 12 monster sweeps can easily be lost in the frenzy of pursuing 300 wrath spent, and there is never a time in actual Roland's gameplay where you try to line up that big of a sweep. It took some unwarranted adjustments, but I ended up liking the dungeon, and expect that with proper health tuning, trash mobs will stop dying from a single condemn. Thus the objectives will line up better with each other. I have little to criticize in the Seeker of the Light dungeon. It is designed to underline your defense, does not force you out of your offense, reacquaints you with the Hammerjammer's induced role of Seeker of the Light as the set that jumps in the thick of things instead of kiting, and has a clever triple falling sword objective that you can get around in multiple ways. Finally, the latest Crusader rework, Doors of the Invoker set, has an awkward dungeon to its name. It suffers from the overgearing issue that Roland's is plagued by, and I quickly realized I had to go in with a quarter of my Thorns damage if I hope to succeed. The objective of elite killing during Iron Skin and Consecration is quite restrictive, and forces you to save those cooldowns by necessity rather than playing them out naturally. It gets worse with the random placement and distribution of monsters, causing you to run away in panic when two elites were too close together and your considerable downtimes are not over yet. The other secondary objective, which is catching spears like a pincushion, is only doable if the goat spearmen don't one-shot themselves from high thorns. With some adjustments to either their number or their health, this part of the challenge will actually be fun. In conclusion, I hope I didn't come off as too negative. I enjoy the set dungeon concept, and I hope the static dungeon idea is expanded upon, as it can easily have its own challenges, leaderboards, and its own metagame. Regardless of what they become, either a neat set tutorial or objective-based puzzles, there are a bunch of kinks to iron out, and that's the purpose of my feedback. I look forward to their final version in 2.4. I hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to the set dungeon reviews of the other classes, which will come very soon. Talk to me on Twitter and Facebook that I'll link below, and I'll see you guys next time.